This week, MV Agusta announced a pretty big update to their line of 800 triples, which contains both their Brutale and Dragster variants. There are plenty of tweaks to the engine, some nice chassis improvements, and a huge overhaul of the electronics. They say that in making these changes, the bikes are more fun, whilst at the same time being easier to live with. So in today's video, we'll go over all of the changes to find out how they've done it. But before we get started, if you're new here and you want to see all of the latest motorcycle news right here on YouTube, then please do remember to hit subscribe. Now in this video I'll talk about the Brutale and the Dragster interchangeably because the updates are pretty much the same across the board and the two bikes are essentially built upon the same platform. Many of the differences are visual, and the Dragster has spoked wheels with a fatter 200 section rear tyre, as well as a slightly different riding position, but the engine, frame, suspension, brakes and electronics are common to both bikes. Now, Euro 5 emissions regulations have forced many manufacturers to update their bikes this year, and MV have sought to clean up their 800 triples with an entirely new exhaust system. The good news for punters, though, is that they've managed to maintain an impressive peak power figure of 140 horses by making further changes to the engine internals. There are now higher pressure fuel injectors and some new low friction coatings on some of the components in order to improve efficiency. For reference, the 2021 Ducati Monster makes 111 horsepower from its 937cc twin. The Triumph Street Triple RS is similar in layout and capacity to the MVs, and that makes 121 horsepower peak, whilst the recently updated Yamaha MT-09 with its 890cc triple makes 119 horsepower. That's why the MVs are so impressive, with a high revving triple that produces its peak at 12,300 RPM. So if you want a naked 3-cylinder bike with some proper top-end power, then these might be the bikes for you. Elsewhere for 2021, the clutch has been made more robust and quieter, whilst the up and down quick shifter has a new sensor which has helped them make it operate smoother and with more precision. There's also still the option of their Smart Clutch System or SCS on both the Brutale and Dragster, which is a unique proposition in the performance naked market. Developed in partnership with Recluse, the SCS essentially holds the clutch on your behalf when the bike is at a standstill. Now you still shift gears once you're on the move and there's still a clutch lever if you want to use it, but in stop-start traffic, the Smart Clutch System will save you working the lever so much. Now I've tried it out on the Turismo Veloce, and although it does take a few miles to get your head around, I've got to say it works extremely well and performs smoothly as you move off.
It's just really effortless. There's no thought that goes into it. You just wind on the throttle and go. You're still using the gears as normal. It's not like a fully automatic bike, as you would with a quick shifter anyway. And of course, when the revs are low, the quick shifter is a little bit less effective, as with all bikes, so you're still better off probably using the clutch. But you know, if you're riding around town in first and second, or you can probably pull away in second.
The chassis receives a few minor improvements for 2021, with new side plates on the frame to improve stiffness, whilst a revised linkage and rear shock aim to improve comfort over distance. The fork settings have also been updated to complement the rear, although fundamentally it's still the same Marzocchi 43mm upside-down fork with full adjustability and diamond-like coating on the stanchions. The shock is fully adjustable too and comes from Sachs. Braking is again courtesy of Brembo, with twin radially mounted 4-pot calipers on 320mm discs at the front and a 2-pot Brembo on a 220 at the rear. That ought to be plenty of stopping power for a bike that tips the scales at 175 kilograms dry. Seat height remains at 830mm for the Brutale and 845 for the Dragster, although the padding has been reworked for extra comfort, and the shroud around the dash is also said to deflect more wind away from the rider, which ought to help with fatigue over distance. But without doubt, the biggest area of development for these new MVs has to be the electronics, with a new inertial measurement unit developed in Italy by a company called eNovia, who are based in Milan. That opens up lean-sensitive rider aids like traction control and ABS, and front-wheel lift control can now also maintain a wheelie as opposed to simply shutting it down, as the IMU can detect the pitch angle of the bike. You also get cornering lights which illuminate the inside of a turn, which is a neat safety improvement for anyone who often rides at night. There's cruise control and launch control as well, which I had the absolute pleasure of testing out on the Brutale 1000 RR last year, courtesy of Crazy Horse in Bury St Edmunds, and let's just say it was quick.
Pull the clutch, engage first gear, full throttle. Oh, I don't know about that. I don't know if I could do that. No! Okay.
All of these new rider aids and modes can be administered through a 5.5-inch TFT screen, which replaces the LCD unit of the previous generation that was starting to look a little dated. You can also pair it with your phone, of course, which opens up navigation prompts as well as the ability to play with the bike settings from your device. One feature that you'll find on a few of the more recent MVs is a built-in tracker courtesy of Mobisat. I'm not sure if it's just for sharing your rides from the app or whether you can use it as a genuine security measure, but if it's the latter, that's a great development from MV in terms of keeping your bike safe. From a visual perspective, there are just a few minor amends to the new bikes, with a more angular shape to the updated silencer, as well as small changes to the bodywork. The new adaptive cornering headlight does have a more distinctive look to it though, lifted straight off the Brutale 1000 RR, and I think it works nicely here too. There's also some updated paintwork, with the Brutale in black and grey and red and grey, whilst the Dragster is available in black and grey as well, or silver and grey. Now there are 7 models in this lineup, so I'll do my best to run you through them. The starting point is the Brutale RR, which comes in at £15,240 on the road for 2021, whilst you'll pay £450 more for the Smart Clutch version. There's also the Brutale 800 Rosso, which gets mostly the same spec and improvements for 2021, but a reduced power output of 112 horsepower that can be restricted for A2 as well. The finish is simpler with a flat black and red, but for 12 grand it looks pretty decent considering you get all the electronic updates, providing you don't need the whole 140 horsepower. The Dragster RR starts at £17,510, and a good chunk of that increase will be down to those spoked wheels, which are always pretty pricey. There's the SCS version 2 at £17,970, as well as a more affordable Rosso at £13,400. But the Dragster also comes in a premium spec called the RR SCS RC. It gets super light forged wheels, some carbon bodywork, and an optional race kit which includes an SC Project track exhaust with a corresponding engine map that pushes peak power way up to 150. Limited to 200 units, this version starts at £20,240 with the fancy pipes on top. And that's it for the 2021 MV Agusta 800 triples. The big leap forward is in the electronics with the new dash, IMU and adaptive headlight, but they're such powerful bikes with great components and a really cutting-edge modern design, so I dare say they didn't really need much work elsewhere. The RC version certainly looks flash, but for me, the Rosso paint jobs actually show the bikes off really nicely, and for that reason, they might be my pick of the bunch. But as always, I'd love to know yours in the comments below, and if you're new here and you want to see more videos like this, hit subscribe and I'll catch you next time.